it has the arrogance to break the law and then the ability to get away with it. Not only that, but when people stand up peacefully to ask that the law be enforced, and instead of aligning itself with the law-abiding citizens of our country, the power of this state and other states are aligning themselves with the law-breaking entity. Now, I say they're law-breaking because we know I've been an environmental attorney for 30-some years, and I've been fighting these battles, and I know what they're doing is illegal, and that we will win this battle ultimately in court. And they're trying to build this pipeline fast so that they don't have to face their day in court, so that they can say, well, it's already built. You know, yeah, we trampled on some of the laws, but it's already built. A reporter asked me a few moments ago, about an hour ago, you know, what's the point of stopping them now? They've already built most of the pipeline. And I've said to the reporter, well, if you had people who were robbing a bank and they came in the bank with their guns blazing and they tied up people and they started emptying the cash register and the police then came, do you think the police would say, well, they've gotten this far, we ought to let them just take the money? What's the difference? What they're doing here is a crime, it's an environmental crime, and there's real victims. And what they did is, in order to get away with breaking NEPA, NEPA is our most important environmental statute, National Environmental Policy Act. That was our first environmental statute, passed in 1969, and it was the first time that the U.S. government said that when somebody has a proposal to do something that requires a federal permit that is going to distribute or possibly diminish the value of federal or change the use of publicly owned lands and resources, that they have to do a cost-benefit analysis first. They're required to do that. And what this company did is an old trick. What Congress did is they said, look, we don't want, if somebody's going to do something that is de minimis, that's something that's inconsequential, for example, and this is the example they gave at the time, you need a Corps of Engineers permit to change the pilings on a dock. So every 20 years, those pilings rot, you need to get new ones, you need a Corps of Engineers permit to do it, so you need a federal permit. Should that person have to do a full environmental impact statement? The answer is Congress said, no, we don't want them to have de minimis actions to do an environmental impact statement. So we're going to create a provision of this law called the environmental assessment. It's a shortcut. It's for things that are so inconsequential, so de minimis, so meaningless, that we can say there's going to be no environmental consequences. Well, this company took that little loophole and they tried to draw it around a 1,200-mile pipe. XL Pipeline didn't even think it could get away with that. XL Pipeline, which is only 7 miles longer than this one, did the full environmental impact statement. But the way that they did it is called segmentation, and it's an old strategy, and it is a device of chicanery that when we wrote NEPA, everybody foresaw. And we said, well, what would happen if a really devious, diabolical polluter said, I'm going to build something, but I'm only going to build it a little bit at a time, at the airport or whatever, and therefore each segment I won't have to do it will just be an incremental change in the status quo, so I won't have to do an environmental impact statement. And Congress foresaw that, and they said, no, we're not going to let them do that. They have to look at the whole project, the whole program, and you can't segment it. There's a section of NEPA that is an anti-segmentation section. It says you can't segment a project. If it's a big project, you have to admit it's a big project. You have to do the EIS for the whole thing. So they're trying to invoke that loophole for a project that is going to disrupt 209 streams. If they had to build a pipeline across one stream or one river like the Missouri River, they'd have to do a full environmental impact statement. They're trying to invoke that loophole for a project that will produce the same amount of carbon pollution as 29 coal-burning power plants. if somebody built a single power plant and the only environmental impact it had was the carbon, they'd still have to do an environmental impact statement. And CQ passed rules in August that specifically said they got to do it for carbon discharge. So we know what the law is. This company knows what the law is. They use a flim-flam to break the law. And now when peaceful protesters are saying, wait a minute, we want to see a cost-benefit analysis, the company is saying, no, we're not going to do that. And the reason they don't want to do it is because they don't want the American people to see the results of that cost-benefit analysis. Because we all know what it says. This pipeline is not going to benefit the American people. This pipeline, this is what they'd be forced to disclose. This pipeline is going to benefit a few billionaires like Donald Trump, and it's going to make them richer by impoverishing the rest of us, by impoverishing the American people, by diminishing quality of life for people all over the globe, by adding to global warming, which is the biggest threat to civilization. Somebody asked me a few minutes ago, again, what did I think, what would my message be to Donald Trump? And, I don't want to make a judgment about what Donald Trump is going to do or what he's not going to do, because I don't know. I know what he said. What he said is that he wants to build this pipeline, the XL pipeline, and many, many other pipelines. And I hope that before he takes the reins of power, he will educate himself about energy policy. And he will understand that this is something that may be good for his pocketbook, but it's not good for America, and it's not good for the world. This pipeline will not benefit this country, because the oil from this pipeline, we know, is going to go to Asia, and it's going to go to Latin America, so it will increase supplies in those nations, which is not good for our manufacturers. It will create pollution, which is not good for our children. It will create global warming. President-elect Trump has said that he wants to go after ISIS and he is going to crush it. But the I would hope that before he makes decisions about this pipeline, that he assesses properly the risks and rewards. And what he'll find, and I hope he asks the Pentagon, what is the greater threat to this nation? ISIS or global warming? Because the Pentagon has already answered that in a very comprehensive report. And they've said the single greatest threat to American security is coming from global warming. This is a national security threat.